Guys and dolls, Freedom Dad here, and hope you're all good. All good at this end, good rest, and yeah, non-stop, busy. So I just want to say thank you to all the subs. Thank you so much for coming in, and welcome to Freedom Dad's party. To all my old subs that have been there from day one, I haven't forgot about yous. We will still be rolling with our lives and doing our normal lives and our chit-chats. But, just reflecting on yesterday, I'm seeing the same rhetoric coming out from the government, blaming everybody but themselves, and it's sad. It's sad that they don't grasp the fact that, in Ballymena last night, there was as many Catholics as Protestants. Nobody's touched on it, So I'm getting messages from guys from Ballymena who are telling me I'm a Catholic and a nationalist, That's what they're telling me. And then they're going on to say, hi, this is the only way forward, you know what I mean? And I'm getting so many messages from the other side of the community, and it's absolutely amazing. And this just proves a point, guys, that this is not what the government want. They don't want us coming together, They're going to come at me without any doubt. I've always told you this, there's always going to be something that will come. And, always give me time to reply, We've always sat here waiting, to see what direction it comes from, and that tells a very big story. So it does. So we're waiting for that moment, and then we'll deal with it as we go forward. And I expect you just to judge me as is always. I'm an open book and I'm transparent, and it's the way I've been from day one. Nothing to hide, you know what I mean? I've just got to be careful I don't give people ammunition. Yeah, you can understand that. And but yeah, like I say, I'll address any issue. I'll use my platform to explain everything. You know what I mean? And talk about my life and what's happened in the past and stuff. And it has been a roller coaster. But like I keep on saying, putting the bank robberies aside, I've never done anything bad to anybody good. And I stand by that. And as we say, who has the right to speak? We all have the right to speak. Just because I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a private school boy. I left school in second year, never really seen school at all, first year and second year. But officially I left school at second year. And I ended up educating myself in prison, learning to read and write properly, and by reading books, loads of books, because there was never any TVs in the jails back in the day. So, yeah, like I say, guys, if you want to know who I am, there is a video there, Who is Freedom Dad. Don't want to keep going on, but that gives you an outlay. I will cover it as there's more people come on, if it gets like that, and I will go into detail of exactly who I am. Like I say, we don't have any politicians telling us exactly who they are, They've got one face for Westminster and another face for us. That's what I think, And like I say, I want everything on the table, guys. I don't want us to be railroaded in one direction like we've always been, split down the middle. Catholics voting for this, Protestants voting for that. That needs to change. We all know that needs to change, And I'm not here promoting anything, I'm not here saying we need to be independent. I'm saying it needs to be on the table. I'm saying we need to have that option, as we go forward, dependent. We don't want to spring this on anybody. If there's 5-10 years down the line when people are going, that's not the Westminster that we signed up for, that's not the Westminster that represents us, and then you will be wanting to go independent or whatever you may want to do. We're Generation X. We don't know how long we're going to have left. It may be down to our kids. But the thing is, we want the option there. We want to be able to talk about it openly and freely. And that's what it's about, I've got 2 Union Jacks on my arm and a Union Jack on my left shoulder with a scroll underneath it saying Belfast. Never ever question who I am, I know who I am. But this is the thing. I'm a father. And that comes before anything else now. I've got a 7-month-old daughter, and the only place I look is 20, 30 years ahead. And that's why I talk the way I talk. I'm not talking about tomorrow or next week or next year. I'm talking about 20, 30 years ahead. And I want to prepare Northern Ireland, at least get the people of Northern Ireland prepared for what needs to be done to create the foundations that are going to protect our children going forward when we're not here. And that's the most important thing us Generation X have to do in life. You shouldn't have anything else in life to focus on. And that's just my opinion. As you say, this is always for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's The life's of me. It's what's in my head. Whatever I'm dealing with in life, I bring to camera, And I can't help that if there's a lot of what you would call baddish men or people that aren't perfect, because we live in Northern Ireland. We live in areas, in the working class areas, and nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect anywhere. Nobody's got the right to judge anybody because of what they've went through as a child and what they've went through growing up as a young teenager in the troubles of Northern Ireland. And it's very easy for people to sit on their high horses, you guys in your leafy suburbs, with your money and your 3-car family and all the rest of it, and judge people like me. But please believe me, one day you'll be sorry you've never listened to people like me, because you won't see it for a long time, because it's our working class areas that'll get filled up. It'll be the city centre that gets filled up. And then by the time you know it, these guys aren't going to be staying in their own areas. They're going to be pushing out. Crime rate's going to go up, You're going to get tie-ups and all sorts of mad stuff, and you're going to see crime that you'd never seen before. And it's going to affect you all, because we've got nothing for them. All they seem to want is our children. That's the truth. That's the only victims we seem to have, along with the violence and the drug dealing. But yous have got the money. Yous have got the nice cars. Yous have got the jewellery. Yous will be targeted. Maybe not yous, but your children might be. So this is all the things that we got to look at, because there's a big change going on. And, any politician standing up right now and trying to blame anybody else but the actual government, or working for the government, it's as simple as that. And, you've just got to stay true to what's in your heart and stand firm under whatever comes at you guys. And, I don't want to see rats on the streets. We're trying to prevent it. It's not hard to prevent. Communication, funding. There's no money. 400 million was spent in hotels. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We don't have that kind of money in Northern Ireland. We've got children that are still going through mental health, and adults that are suffering from complex PTSD for what they've went through in the troubles. It was a nightmare. There was a conflict. There was bombs going off. It was non-stop. Absolutely non-stop for all us Generation X as we grew up through the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. It never rested. I never remember a time when we were running in peace. There was always something happening. There was always a bomb going off. There was always somebody being unalived. And there was always security services, army and the police always flying about our areas. Our lighting was always out. It was just chaos, absolute chaos, And in them days, the police didn't like to get out of their Land Rovers. They would just fly through the areas and fly back out, or come in with the army. So, we lived in an area where the neighbourhood policed themselves, And that was a long, long time ago. A long, long time ago. And now we hear again men talking about policing their own areas, guarding their school routes, school runs, parks, beaches. This isn't Freedom Dad saying this. This is the community, the whole community of Northern Ireland, I don't know what else to say. All I'm doing is bringing it to you in a format that's raw, unedited and live, so you can see exactly what's going on, with a bit of commentary to let you understand what the people are saying and thinking. I'm not just sitting there jumping, throwing stuff at the top of my head just of my personal feelings. I'm reporting as a journalist, telling you what I'm hearing on the streets and in the areas that I go to, and in the messages and all the love that I'm getting from Protestants and Catholics, even from the south, So anyway, that's where we're at. That's what it's about. It's about bringing two communities together that the government have been forcing apart for the last 50, 60 years. Okay? That's the bottom line. That's what most people have got on their mind right now. We can't do this apart. We're all afraid. That's the truth. We're all backed in the corner. Nobody's helping us. The media aren't supporting us. They're just wanting to target us. Target us, the ones that are trying to help our children. Targeting the fathers. Because of my background and my past. The government aren't helping. They're just wanting to silence everybody, shut everybody down, and put everybody in the jail that disagrees with them for Facebook posts. That's where we're at. That's the situation we're at right now, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying that we could be shut down and they could carry on doing what they're doing, like they've done in England to Northern Ireland. And as well with Ireland picking up with their protests and that, these men will be pushed out of Ireland and they're just going to come into Northern Ireland. And I imagine England is getting pretty full up right now in some of these areas, and they just don't fancy being in an already established sort of Islamic area, you know, where there's mosques and all the rest of it. I don't know how many mosques there is in Luton. When you can throw the comments up, it's double figures, like in the 20s or 30s or 40s. That's who changes. Who's changes for a little area, for a city or town like Luton, you know? And it's being copied all along. It's just, that was where it started, and then it's went out to other cities, and people are afraid of that. People don't want to lose their culture. They don't want their animals to be slaughtered without the stun gun. They don't want to worry about having no-go areas for their dogs and people complaining that they don't like dogs. We don't want, like, our Christians not being able to preach on the street and give the word of God out because somebody's complained about it, and then the police come along and harass our preachers because of somebody that's come into the country that's not happy. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes any sense, and we've just got to take that. And if we complain, we're far-right and racist. You know, it's a very, very sad situation that we've got. I don't know, I was saying 20,000, but obviously there's a lot more than that in Ballymena, and that was within 24 hours, and that was both sides of the community, guys. That wasn't just a Protestant community, that was both Catholic and Protestant. And I just want to say to the Catholic and Protestant community, well done. The whole world is watching you. You know, I know the violence and all the rest of it. People understand that. People get that. You know, we know that in any situation when thousands and thousands of people come out like that, it always ends up with a couple of bad eggs creating violence, and you know, it spreads. So yeah, we can see that it happens in every situation like this. It's very difficult to stop, and you know, there's not the resources there now to stop it, because Northern Ireland's a different time. You know, we've got problems in some of the communities that are promoting the problems that we're having, and yeah, there's huge steps to take, and very, very difficult decisions, and it is very, very difficult. And I'm sick of people telling me not to do this and not to do that, and be careful of this and be careful of that. You know, at the end of the day, what do you do with the risk of going to jail because you're being honest, and you're trying to protect your daughter, and you're trying to protect your lands for the future, because you see what's happening in England, and you see what's happening with the politics in Scotland. Hamza Yusuf, First Minister of Scotland, making statements that everybody was white. You know, on what planet is that okay? On what planet is that not racist? You know, but it's okay for him to stand there and say he's not happy that everybody's white in Scotland in all the high up positions, you know, even though the place is, I don't know, 98% white, 90%, 80% white, say, just for as conservative figure. So, and then we had the leader of the Labour Party, you know, Sarwar, and he's doing the exact same speech, not happy that everybody's white. And then he's took a meeting or spoken in front of the Pakistani flag to other Pakistani men, telling them that we need more Pakistani men in power, and talking about changing things. This is Scotland. Scotland doesn't want anything changed. Scotland's where the Braveheart comes from. You know, Scotland and England have got so much history. You know, all based off religion, off the Christian religion. You can't just move and change power where, you know, it's going to be biased, because we see the bias, we see the racism already. You call it what it is. If I complained about people being black, I would get done for racism. If I made any comment about black and white, they would be through my door. But yet these men are allowed to stand in power and complain that everybody else is white, and nobody bats an eyelid. That's wrong. That's frightening, and that there needs to stop. And the last thing I'm going to say is, I have been getting a lot of requests from medias, more than I can count, and we do not engage with the media. We are the new media. We are citizen journalists. It's down to you guys. Anything happens to me, you know what to do. You've got cameras, you've got microphones, you can talk to people. You know, you've got people in your areas that are passionate. Give them something to do. Give them an avenue for that passion, you know, and that's what it's about. Your people want to hear the stories from you, not the mainstream media. The mainstream media have lied and failed us all along. It's evidence after evidence after evidence. They've kept everything quiet, and that, as far as I'm concerned, they're as guilty as the men who opened the door to let these monsters into our country. Because there's no other way to put it. What these men done to them young girls in Rotherham and Rochdale and all the rest was monstrous. never before seen in our lands, sexual offences committed in such a way, and I can't even tell you or even go there on YouTube. But it's a first. It's a first for Britain. It's a first for Ireland. And, you know, like I say, I've got experience with prisons, been in and out of prison, Scotland, England and Northern Ireland. And I can tell you now, we have never seen crimes like this on our children ever before in Great Britain. And that's another thing that terrifies people. So when you've got so many things terrifying people, you would imagine the politicians would go out and speak to the people, find out exactly what the problem is, go to England and see what's happened, you know. Speak to people in Scotland, speak to people in England, go to Ireland and speak to people in Ireland. That's what these politicians need to do. You just don't sit there on your high horse making all your money, wearing your shirts and ties and suits and taking orders from Westminster and telling us you know better. Because not when you're taking orders from Westminster. How can you know better? So yeah, until you all start speaking up, you aren't going to get anywhere. If a new political party comes along, you're all beat. You're all beat. If a political party pops up now for Protestants and Catholics, you're all beat. Because I think the Northern Ireland people are sick of voting Catholic, Protestant, Sinn Féin, DUP. They're sick of it, you know. And then all the wee breakaway ones, you know what I mean? Splitting the vote up left, right and centre. Really, really dangerous. So it is really dangerous. And yeah, there's going to be a change. You can see it. It's in the air. I know what people are saying. I hear what my community are saying. I see what people are saying under my videos. I'm seeing what people are saying under everybody else's videos, you know. Yeah, there's big changes coming. There's a big awakening. And there's too many people awake in Northern Ireland, you see. It's not going to work. We're too small. England was bigger. They could put people here, there and everywhere. And before you knew it, you had a block in the Midlands. You know, so that's not going to be so easy here. Another thing I want to say is whenever these attacks on these places, what you always got to remember when you're putting people out of their homes is you're moving them into another area. So my advice to people is if you have problems in your area, the only thing you can do is be vigilant. Don't be violent. Don't put people out of their houses. Like I say, you're moving the problem into somebody else's area. So if you've got a guy doing things to our children, or a couple of guys thinking about doing it, and they get moved into another area, then you're going to affect their children and your neighbours' children, you know, and that's all I can say. That's a logical thing, guys, you know what I mean? I'm not getting into the human rights and all the rest of it. I'm not here. I'm only speaking up for my people, you know, and the refugees that are here that we've been getting for years and years that have never caused the problems, never caused any problems at all, you know. We all have had refugees and immigrants in our areas and, you know, owning businesses, you know, it's been there. You know, we've had Polish, Lithuanians, you know, we've had them all. Bricklayers, plumbers, joiners, all coming in, putting into society, making their money and going back home to their families. And yeah, that's normal. That's what, you know, normally what happens. But it seems to be we're getting people in that are totally against our culture, got an opposite culture to us, and they want us to change. They want us to accept what they've brought with them, their traditions and culture. And that's, we've got to allow them to carry them traditions and cultures out in our streets, you know. And that's not fair. Not when you've got so many Muslim countries around the world that, you know, celebrate these cultures like Eid and Ramadan, you know what I mean? And yeah, it doesn't make any sense why they keep doing it. Why is the government, when you know you've got hundreds of thousands of children affected because of the men you're bringing into the country, why would you keep doing it? You're implicit, you're guilty. You're as guilty as the men that are doing it. And I hopefully one day somebody, somewhere will bring charges against these men that have done this to England. And who's doing this to Ireland? One day somebody gets in the power and holds all these people accountable. All these people that are there bringing all these men in and coaches. And all, like there's lorries coming in and they're just flying out of the back of lorries. I've seen videos. And then there's coaches that the government are bringing in the dead of night. You know, so I've seen loads of videos. Loads of people are out now. Loads of evidence. And yeah, guys, so that's where we're at. Also, Stephen Nolan, he's one of his producers contacted me. So again, we don't entertain mainstream media at all. You know, they've done nothing but fail us. You know, and like if you want me to go into it, I've got a story to tell you about Stephen Nolan and what he's done to one of our kids in our working class areas. You know, what happened to this young kid as a baby, the kind of family he came from, what chances he had in life, and then what Stephen Nolan done to him, and how much danger and harm he put him in, you know. So yeah, there's lots of reasons why we don't speak to Stephen Nolan, you know, because he's part of the problem, obviously. And yeah, at the end of the day, Their support will fizzle out. Our support will get bigger, you know. We're the truth tellers. We're not giving misinformation. We're telling you the facts of what's happening with the evidence that we've got, you know. That's it. We don't look outside the box. We just go with the logical evidence that we've got with what's going on around us. Like I say, we've had 15 years of experience of what's in England and what's in what Tommy Robinson was trying to do and went through, and Paul Golding and Nick Cannoni from UKIP. I mean, we see how they've been persecuted, how they've been put down, how the police and the government use, like the Palestinian marchers, counter-protesters, how they fund them, how they hope not hate, end racism, how they work side by side with the government, far left organisations, you know. So we've got proof of the funding and everything, and where they get the money from. So all these things have been researched, and a lot of things you can do yourself by Freedom of Information Act. Any information the government have, whether it's funding, whether it's money that they're spending on irregular immigration, whatever it is, you're entitled to that information under the Freedom of Information Act. So you just send a letter off, tell them you want this information under that act, and you can do your own research, guys. The information's there, you know. Like I say, it's the government. Any government official that says that you're getting misinformation from YouTubers or TikTokers are trying to dairy the blame away from themselves. Okay, you aren't stupid. You know the score. You know what you've seen how quiet these politicians have been. Some of you haven't had a clue what was going on until some of us YouTubers come up and started raising awareness. The politicians haven't. Now they're starting to change their tune because they want you to vote for them. You know, they want you to vote for them. So they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear. And then when they get in, they're going to do nothing about it because they don't have to do nothing about it. They don't even have the power to do anything about it because they do what they're told. If they're told to take in these amount of refugees and here's a load of millions for doing it, they're doing it. Okay? There's a lot of money going about. A lot of people are filling their pockets, and we'll be doing Freedom of Information Acts for people's accounts and their portfolios to see who is actually making money during this time. And that's what it's all about. That's what citizen journalists is all about. It's just about citizens trying to protect themselves, trying to make a reasoning out of the madness of all the no information that we get from the media and how the government treat people like me. So yeah, after a long consideration, I need to get a headset and a mic sorted out, but I will be going on to Nell's platform. Have spoke to some of my mates about it, and yeah, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's a big step to make. It's a big step for him to take. You know what I mean? So I think you would expect it from me. I think you would be disappointed if I said no. So, you know, like I say, these are big steps in Northern Ireland. This is a Catholic nationalist from the south of Ireland going to speak to an ex-loyalist who's been brought up in loyalist areas in Northern Ireland. And I think it'll be quite interesting. But I don't know where it's going to go. You know, there is issues that we disagree on. We're not going to go down that road. You know, if he wants, we can talk about it. But I think he wants to just talk about what's going on in Northern Ireland with irregular and legal and illegal immigration. So yeah, that's where we're at. And got a couple of other things on. I know Lindsay's in a couple of meetings as well, really important meetings a day. And yeah, it's non-stop. Orla will be back soon, and all the other guys are all working really well. Lisa was done a live on the TikTok last night for a play there. I know it got taken down, but that is TikTok, and everybody there doing their bit and getting stuff online. And you know, a lot of people just want to put up the violence because that's what everybody wants to see, the burning stuff and all that. So it's important that we do cover everything. You see the start and the finish, rather than having the headlines of just burning cars, houses being burnt, smashed windows, and the rhetoric of violent masked thugs on the streets of Ballymena attacking immigrants, legal immigrants, you know. So yeah, they were moved out. Politicians came with coaches and moved them all out really early on in the day, end of the afternoon. So the houses were all empty, and you know, obviously they were going to be empty. And like I say, now they're going to be somebody else's problem, to be honest with you, because this community were creating problems. As you heard from eyewitnesses' accounts, that's not misinformation. That's the people in the street telling you what was going on. That was what woman that lived in the street telling you what was going on in that street. See, the government don't like that. They don't want you getting them sort of truths. They want to just keep pushing their rhetoric out. They say, are young racist far-right thugs who attack some pure legal immigrants. They had every right to be in this country. yeah, every right to be in this country as long as you keep your hands off our kids, you know. Northern Ireland, we're not having it. I've told you this, I've made this clear. I speak to everybody, I've been in on all the areas, and it's the same thing. The same thing. It's not happening on our watch, you know, and that's a problem. Like I've said, that is a problem. I did say before, it just takes the wrong child, you know, in the wrong area, in the wrong family, and it could go absolutely chaotic. And we're trying to avoid that because it just puts us back. You know, as you say, the media aren't on our side, the government aren't on our side. They just call us all bad and far right and misinformation, and it's all the YouTubers' fault and it's all Freedom Dad's fault. You know what I mean? Like I'm smuggling the boats in. You know what I mean? Like I'm giving people visas willy nilly. You know, like I'm spending billions and billions, like 1.5 billion a month on social benefits alone. Hey you, hey, get out of that. Come here. Drinking dirty water. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's given me support, everybody that's there. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's not going to be easy, I tell you that now. There will be things coming, no doubt. But like I say, I know what I'm doing, you know. Nothing's changed. I'm the same person from when I started it, you know what I mean? Hey you, come here. So yeah, thick-skinned and all that, you know what I mean? And you've always got to know who you are. You've got to definitely know who you are to do this kind of thing. And yeah, that's all I can say, guys. You know, a lot on my mind, a lot I want to say, but I just want to get the basics out of what's going on, what you've seen, and some of the things that's coming out. We were listening on the radio in the car when we were going for lunch. Yeah, the rhetoric coming out, it's everybody else's fault but the government. You know what I mean? You're like, what? Yeah, try and explaining that one to the people in Northern Ireland. But like I say, guys, I'm just here to tell you what's going on the street, grassroots levels, the stuff that nobody else is dealing with. You know what I mean? There is other guys, but, you know, a lot of people are scared. They're afraid, you know, when they see what's happening in the Glen, they see what's happening with other guys in Northern Ireland, and they see what happened with Tommy. It works. What the government do, it does work. It affects the rest of the community. But the thing is, unfortunately for the government, this is a country full of ex-loyalist and Republican prisoners who will quite happily go back to prison for their children. And that's the unfortunate thing. They need to start building more prisons if they're going to just keep throwing us all in prison. Yeah, I don't know where we go from this, guys. Don't know when the door's going to get knocked, you know, when I'm going to get done with a hit piece, and when the government will try and bring me down. But I want to tell you this now, I'm not suicidal in no way. You know, what I've been through, the stuff that I've had to deal with in life, thinking about committing suicide this stage of the game, I think you all know that would be the government up to no good. So yeah, I just want to get that out there because, like I say, I fear the government more than I fear anybody else. And I mean that. And I was on my mother's grave, I fear the government more than I fear anybody else because I know what the government did over here. I know the tactics of the government. Yeah, I know things that unbelievable, that no receipts, you just wouldn't believe it, you know, so, but we'll just leave that in the past. But like I say, guys, we are, as citizens and fathers and mothers and grannies and uncles and aunties, we are trying our best to do things the right way. We're trying to bring communities together. We're trying to avoid violence. We're trying to avoid any violence towards any illegal, irregular or legal immigrants, you know. Obviously, we don't want any harm coming to these people because we know what comes after that. We're aware of how the media will deal with it and how, yeah, we know what road we'll be going down. You know, it's us, the people, quite truthfully, against the government and the media. You know, so be careful, guys. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my videos. All you guys have been here from the start. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know you might like the lives because it was a bit of action and all that, but it's not always action. You know, I mean, a lot of people say I'm quite boring. You know, I mean, I go on and on. So it's not for everybody. But if it's not for you, there's loads of YouTubers out there, guys. Just don't throw any hate down. There's no need for it. If there's something I'm saying you don't agree with, go to a YouTuber that you will agree with, because there's that many out there. There's somebody for everybody. I'm Freedom Dad, and God bless.